So Terry has led global teams in teaching mindfulness and stress mastery to enhance performance and human potential. She basically wants to help us all be better people, personally and professionally. She founded Mindful Stress Management, whose mission is to provide evidence-based tools for individuals and organizations experiencing stress, overwhelm, change, and help eliminate roadblocks to success and well-being. She is a certified mindfulness-based stress reduction instructor from UMass Medical School and Center of Mindfulness, certified stress mastery educator, and a diplomate of the American Institute of Stress. And that's Terry. She's going to lead us through the third episode of Mindful Stress Management, and I look forward to this. And there are 3 more after this to make sure we're all dialed in. So Terry, take it away.
All right, great. Thank you, Jonathan. And just again, thanks for the opportunity to share the work, share the practices, and with all of you. And it's so nice to see familiar faces. I just love it. So welcome back. The first week, the session was on Pop Stress Now, which is how does stress impact our body, our brain, our behavior. The second one was on the body scan. Who was here for that one last time, the body scan? And then who did some of the practice in the last couple weeks? Anybody? It's okay if you didn't. Okay. Yeah, so, and then this week we're going to talk about communication and collaboration and how stress impacts communication and collaboration. And this is a piece of the mindfulness-based stress reduction course in part. So let's just dive into it. I'm going to share my screen. Wherever you have come from, whatever meeting, whatever thinking, whatever joy, stress, anxiety, whatever it is. Now we're here for this next hour together. So let's just take 2 minutes to pause, feel our breath, observe what's happening in our body, our emotions, our mood, our thoughts, and then proceed. So that's pop. And you can close your eyes if that's comfortable, or you can keep them open, and I'll just guide you through it. So really just arriving, you don't have to do anything or change anything. And starting by just feeling your body in the chair. Gentle sense of gravity. Taking a break. And noticing the breath moving in and out of the body. And it may be in the chest, it may be shallow, it may be deep in the belly. Wherever it is, just noticing. Breath in, breath out. And we pause. And connect. And then we observe and notice body sensations, tingling, warmth, tightness, hunger, whatever it is. We notice how we're feeling, checking in with our mood, and allowing. We may have pushed things aside during the day, and now we just allow ourselves to be with what's here and noticing what's on your mind as you settle into this hour. So we just observe, sort of take our temperature in a way, and then we proceed. So having settled into the body, the breath, with intention, we proceed into the next moment, next action or non-action. And with this, we can be responsive rather than reactive. So we show up fully. And I want to invite you to consider an intention for this next hour on how we look at communication, collaboration, how stress impacts our communication. Is there a word or something that comes up about your intention or your motivation for participating? Okay, and keeping that intention in mind as we move through and as we shift from this practice. You'll hear the bells. Okay. So communication and collaboration. We're going to look at how stress can impact communication and gain a greater awareness of interpersonal communication patterns, and look at two models of communication. One is mindful listening and communication. You'll see the model. And the other is nonviolent communication. And this comes from something called the feedback wheel, which I just find so useful, by Terry Real, if you're interested in looking at more once you find out what it is, if you haven't heard of him yet. And then applying ways to apply the tools to your daily life. All right, so communication. This quote by Stephen Covey, does this sound familiar? Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. Yeah, I see some heads nodding. So it's like, oh yeah, she says that, oh, I'm going to say this. And, you know, we're just prepared. So we're going to practice today watching that, you know, kind of impulse and sort of quieting it down and just seriously listening to what people say. Here's another good one. The greatest compliment that was ever paid me was when one asked me what I thought and attended to my answer. How does it feel to be listened to like really be heard? Has anybody ever said to you, you never listen? I think that happens in a lot of couples. Someone is saying, you never listen to me. I'm listening, but you're not hearing me. I heard you. You said this, this, and this. Yeah, but you're not hearing me in your heart, right? So what is that about? How are we not hearing? When we're hearing words, but we're not really fully hearing. So we're going to do some practices around that. So what is communication? Let me show you this. I hope this works. Okay, can you guys see a new screen that says Zoom? Okay, great. So I'm going to play this little conversation. Some of you may have seen it. Here's communication. Here we go.
Did you understand it though? No. Okay. All right. Come on. Oh, no, not this one. This is the grand finale of this. Yeah, that's the last one. That's what I was wondering. I don't know what they're gonna do next season because they did some stuff this time. Exactly what I was thinking. Oh yeah. Right. Don't bring that again. You know what I'm saying? Don't do the same stuff. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I was like that. Yeah. Like go somewhere else with that, but don't bring it here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's what I said. He was like, you know what I'm saying? I was like, what in the world? Don't do that here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Really? I thought the same thing. We think a lot alike, huh? Oh, that's great. Right.
Okay.
That is the best. I haven't seen that in several months. It's every bit as funny this time. So cute.
The best.
Yes.
That came out, yeah, about a year ago, I believe. So there's some serious communication happening there, right? It's just so beautiful. So, you know, we get the picture. It's just, they are communicating. That child is really talking. And why does he keep talking? Because the father's really listening. This listening, this like, I care. Yeah, I hear you. I feel you. So it's just fabulous. So we'll move on unless there are any comments anybody wants to make about that video. Okay. All right. So what happens when, how might stress impact communication and how we listen? So I want you guys to think about this, because then we'll just throw it in, come off mute and put in your thoughts. But think about when you're stressed, how does it impact how you're listening? Like even that father, if he were stressed and just sort of like agitated, which of course happens, especially, you know, parents and children, and there might not have been that connection. So what happens when we're stressed or overwhelmed, and how we listen to people and how you express yourself, and if or how you even reach out to people. So it's impacted with stress, right? So can you think of, you know, let's just talk a little bit about what happens when we're stressed in terms of our communication.
We're preoccupied with our thoughts, and then we're not present to actually, you know, feel the other person out and hear them or listen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I probably run the conversation 20 times in my head before I talk to the person, and that the 20 times have nothing to do with the reality.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah. So you're preparing for it in advance. Yeah.
Or else I'm stressed to the point where it's like,
yeah. 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 So, I mean, in thinking about this, you can think about a time where you had a stressful exchange with someone, right? What happened to you? Maybe you were preoccupied. You didn't really listen. You're prepared. Well, I'm going to tell them this. When we get together, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this, and I'll show them. And, you know, sometimes we have to prepare arguments, right? That's okay. But, you know, when we're really trying to communicate and find a common ground and understand what the other person is saying, coming with our argument already intact is not that helpful. So anything else in terms of how you express yourself, or how?
I would add that sometimes on the positive side of stress, there are certainly times when stress will prompt me to reach out, like to that third bullet point, because I will be noticing, oh my gosh, that person looks whatever, upset, tired, stressed. I might mull on it for a while, and I get stressed thinking about it, but that prompts me to reach out to them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that can definitely be a result. And it could go the opposite, where it's just too heightened and you want to stay as far away as possible. And of course, all of these, we never know when these are going to happen. But stress, again, like I said in the first class, is not bad, right? Stress can motivate us to reach out, to communicate, to say, hey, we got to figure this out. Absolutely. So we want to become a little more aware of when stress is inhibiting our communication, when we're maybe isolating because it just feels like too much, and that can be okay too. So this is not prescriptive. It's just in mindfulness practice. Let me, you know, okay, there's that situation, there's that relationship. What's keeping me from bringing this up? Or what's, you know, making me be so defensive or preoccupied or whatever it is. So we're just, you know, raising our awareness, which is what mindfulness is about. And at the heart of communication is being aware of what's my intention? What am I feeling? What do I want from this? And how am I listening? So, okay, so wonderful. Anything else pops up? Okay. All right, I think you pretty much covered it and you get the idea. And we've all experienced it. So these are just kind of reminders or making them a little more explicit. Okay.
I was going to say, I appreciated the example with the child, because that's like the source of stress for me right now while we're all kind of still stuck at home. And like the opposite can totally be true, where my son will not even say that much to me. He might, not say much, but it's like I can't even hear him because I'm so preoccupied with other stuff, or just like kind of exhausted with him being here so often. So it's just that, yeah, it's a good reminder for sure. Seeing that little baby and how happy he was to be given so much quality attention.
Yeah.
Nicole, you getting a little barn sour?
He's going to summer camp next week. Socially distanced, masked
You
summer
need to
camp.
get in your car, roll down the windows, and drive around the block a couple of times.
It's not a bad idea at all.
By herself, right?
Oh, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And wearing a mask.
for sure.
It's really good advice. Sometimes we just need to step away. That's the perfect, sometimes a response.
Well, I can't go out, but I have to take my car out because I need to keep the battery charged. So I go for a drive.
Absolutely. You're safe. And yeah. So wonderful. Just this, that's great. That's great. So we need ways of meeting the challenges in conversations. So this model is looking at communication patterns and options of how we communicate with each other, whether we're stressed or sad or whatever is going on. And there is no real right way, but there is a way to respond. And we talk a lot about in mindfulness around responding versus reacting. So these ways is these variety of responses. So think about a time when you had a conversation, had an exchange, and you were the victim. Or you played the victim. I know, I'm so sorry. Okay, yeah, it's my fault. And the person is coming at you, and then maybe you play role of victim. And you really don't feel it's your fault, but you're taking the blame as if it's your fault, or you're owning it. And sometimes if this goes on and on, it can feel like the classic doormat sort of situation. Yeah, I'm to blame. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know, I'm not good enough. And so that can be sometimes a voice, a reaction in a relationship of a partner, love relationship, or a colleague or family or, friend. So we can watch these when it comes up like, oh, that's what I did. So we don't want to bring judgment to like, yeah, I never want to do that, because sometimes we do it and then we want to explore it. So the victim is one role. When you play the role of, or we play the role of avoiding something. No way, I can't talk about that. I don't want to confront that. And so we avoid, and maybe we avoid the person, and then we have to keep avoiding the person. And sometimes we can avoid them for life, and that works, or they move to another place, or, so again, sometimes avoidance is wise action. So it's not like right or wrong. It's just like, what's the wisest action in this exchange? Then there is the passive aggressive. Somebody comes at you with something and you're like, oh yeah. And then they walk by and you slap them on the back, kind of. I'll get back, I'll get at them. I'll get back at them. So this kind of passive aggressive. And how does that feel for both parties? Is there real communication happening? Does it feel good for the passive aggressive person? It's sort of sneaky. There's certainly no trust. So we want to be aware of when we're acting these out, because if we're human, we're probably we might have a tendency towards one of these, but at some points we might be playing different ones. So we want to become more aware of that. And then aggressive. I'm right. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. So the victim, here comes the charge or the challenge, the victim will come and that wins. And the victim's like, okay. The avoidance, I'm just going to go down this other street. Here comes the challenge. The passive aggressive, they're coming, and at the last minute, this person is going to say no, and then maybe hit them on the back. The aggressor is just, there's no move. How does that feel for both parties? It's like, I'm right. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. We're kind of in that in society, aren't we? In ways. There's real opposition. So these 4 ways are stress reactions sometimes. These can be indicative of a stress reaction. They can maybe exacerbate the stress. And so what is brought up as an alternative is a response. And this is kind of like Aikido. If anybody knows Aikido, or kind of the philosophy of Aikido, is you don't push, but you turn and blend with the person and move in the direction they're going. So you don't push against the energy, you feel their energy, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to move with their energy. Same thing we can do in communication. They're really coming hard. Let me even, physically sometimes we turn and we can say, well, how are they seeing this? I don't even get how they're seeing this. Maybe if I turn and sort of see it from their lens, from their perspective, maybe something else will arise. So that's the responsive way to engage in a challenging conversation, engage when we're stressed. Is there perfection? I don't see any. So we're not looking for perfection, we're just like, when can I notice when I'm doing some of these? Has anybody practiced, recently, the kind of entering and blending kind of conversation? Seeing something from someone else's eyes?
I feel like while you were talking about the 4, I was trying to ask myself, where does it fit in when you're just kind of calmly defending yourself, or kind of self-preserving, or having self-preservation. The only arguments I could think of was where I felt that way, but in a calm way. And so, yeah, I think my basic nature is to do the Aikido thing, at least to soften the, initial whatever. And then from there, I feel like people can listen better. If you just acknowledge their side first and then offer up why they're completely wrong.
Yeah.
I find myself very interestingly, in different relationships, I play different roles. I know this will be odd coming from me in the office, but there are relationships where I'm the victim, and I know that the way that I manage the relationship is I continue to play that victim. And there's also relationships where, and this is I'm learning how to do the Aikido as a parent with a teenager, because teenager just questions everything all the time. Everything, doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter the topic, doesn't matter. It's just everything. And so how do I go, okay, what is it you really want out of this? How can we help you get to that thing that you want out of this? And turn and the whole physical. Yeah. Okay. Let's look at what you're looking at. So I know, and I am not good at that, but that's the goal.
Newsflash, it doesn't end at 20.
I was hoping it ended at 16, David. You're killing me over here.
For me, it's the entering and blending. It sounds a lot like Carl Rogers and his whole unconditional positive regard. And it's, I think in real relationships, not therapy, it's when you have love and trust, it's easier to do that. Or if you have some sort of power in a helping dynamic, that you can do that more easily. I think with these other things, they come up, for at least me, when it depends on the context, or if there's not love and trust involved, and there's more of a self-protecting aspect that I need to have. Because if I'm gonna go to somebody who I don't know and I'm gonna use Aikido, I might get hurt, and I gotta protect myself. So it's, yeah. So context matters and relationship matters.
Totally. Absolutely. Context, the relationship, it matters. And one thing about this Aikido thing, perspective or approach, is you maintain your strength. You maintain your calm. So you bring your calm, your confidence to it. It doesn't mean you have to go along with what that person is saying, but you're going to get a better perspective. So then maybe you can even help get what you need out of the relationship. So it doesn't mean giving up or, okay, I see it from their perspective, so all is lost. You maintain that calmness and confidence and groundedness, and that too comes from being aware of what's arising in the moment. And and you don't know it. We don't know what's going to arise. If we come at somebody like that, we probably know it's going to be like, yeah, we're not going to get far. We might have to step away, come back again later. You know, all that is okay. But if we come with maybe a little openness, we can see what can happen. But again, it depends on the relationship. There is no one right way. Like Jonathan said, this is how I'm playing this role with this relationship. Perfectly fine. So it doesn't always have to be the same, but just knowing where you are in communication with that person and the way of relating can help make the best of the relationship and help you get what you need and move things forward. But being aware of it. So,
well, John's
to me
talking about roles. For me, the first four always hook back to early childhood things about how I responded to being criticized by a parent or getting along with a friend. There's always hooks there. And currently, I can be cruising along and someone will hook me and I'll be a victim all of a sudden. I'll go, wait, what? And that's the thing to recognize, is some of these things are almost like embedded, and we need to recognize we have that tendency to go to. I do.
Jim's great.
Yeah, we recognize our tendencies.
You know, if you look at the first four as sort of negative responses to stress, and the fifth one, the entering and blending, being positive interaction, I think there are other possible positive ways to interact even in stressful situations.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Does something come to mind?
Well, I think that, you know, there can be mutual symbiotic kinds of ways of dealing with stress. I mean, depending on if you have a productive relationship with someone, it doesn't necessarily have to deteriorate under stress. It takes work, but I think that that's a viable option.
Yeah.
So I think the list could be expanded.
Yeah, I hear you. Yes, yes. Yeah, I guess it's not exhaustive, but it's kind of pointing out the reaction versus.
I want to say something. It's okay. I'm sitting here.
Did you want to say something, Lisa?
Yeah, sorry. I just turned my video on. I have a question because it's something that's coming up and it seems like it's entering and blending, but I'm suspicious that I might be avoiding. And what that is that I have a person in my life who complains a lot. And so when we get talking, I feel like I'm starting to do therapy and every conversation goes this way. So what I find myself doing is steering towards the positive, right? So it's complain, or this or that. And I'm just constantly doing that. And I'm wondering, you know, I just wonder about that because in a sense I might be I'm trying to make it go to positive because it gets so hard to listen to negative. So is that a form of avoiding? I guess that's what I'm wondering about. Yeah. Or just keep trying to make it go positive because it is actually unpleasant.
Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's maybe both. I think the truth is kind of both. It's unpleasant and I'm avoiding it a bit because I just don't want to listen and I don't know how to say, geez, it's one complaint after the next. And, you know, it would be great if you did some work because it happens to be somebody I have said that to in the past and they don't want to. But you know what I mean? So it's one of those feeling a little stuck in that communication pattern.
Yeah. Well, what a good thing to realize. And
Yeah.
You know, a definition of suffering is wanting things to be different than they are.
Mm.
And so you're certainly wanting something different in that relationship or with that person, or wanting them to be different. And, you know, so you're sort of just accepting it, trying to shift it. And, you know, you got to play with it. And maybe it is time to just let it be, or see what happens, or ask them questions. Because the entering and blending is also like, what makes you say that? What makes you see it that way? You're exploring, like, perhaps you might see their perspective a little bit if you maybe ask questions and don't push them to feel a certain way, but just inquiring. I never saw it like that. What makes you see it like that? I mean, maybe you've had these conversations, but that's part of entering and blending, is the inquiry.
That's a great point. I might be blending a little too fast. Need to enter more.
Enter.
So I'm in a support group with a number of people, and one of them recently got into conflict with most of the rest of the group. And part of it was that this person's extremely negative, and the assumption on other members' parts was, if she was bringing up a problem, that maybe you could say something that would be helpful. This may be similar to the circumstance you're in. And what we discovered was she just wanted to vent. And she actually didn't want to hear anything in response. And part of the relief for her was simply getting it out. And so sometimes I think when you're dealing with somebody who's very negative, maybe you just sit with it, let it be. Don't try to make it better.
And I actually think it's a form of passive aggressiveness, because by trying to make it better, I'm not trying to shame you or anything, but like by trying to make someone feel positive, you're communicating like, I don't want to tolerate your negative feelings. They're invalid here. You need to feel differently, right? And so by like what David's saying is, if you sit with it and validate it, then that kind of gives them relief.
Yeah, both of those are really helpful.
And yeah, they are. And all situations are so different, right? So, you know, you may have had it up to here with hearing someone's negativity. And just like, you know what? I can't hear it right now. I mean, I have a friend. I know I'm not going to call her at certain times because I know what it's going to be. It's just her nature. And, you know, and I feel myself distancing from her more because I don't want to be around it. And
now you have an excuse.
What?
And now you have an excuse.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
So I know Lisa, everywhere you go, you bring sunshine, and everywhere you go, and I'm imagining that you're seeing this as a project. You need to fix this person and help them see happiness. And I just know that's the person you are. And some people can't. Their nature is not to be the happy, shiny person. Their nature is to be something different, and we love them for that nature, right? But I know for you specifically, because you are a happy, shiny person. That's got to be hard to deal with.
It's okay to have boundaries with your friends. When you don't have the emotional energy, it's okay to say, I don't have the energy right now.
Agreed.
I also think sometimes, you know, we may think that being a good friend means always providing this listening ear and support, but sometimes being a good friend is a little bit of realistic feedback that is just like, I love you, and it can be kind of exhausting. You know, I just would love to see some progress of some kind, you know, or figure out what's going on underneath this, kind of like what Terry was saying about entering and blending is like kind of asking those deeper questions. But that's a matter of commitment on your part, and it really just depends on what kind of relationship that is. Like, how much are you getting out of that friendship, and whether or not it's kind of worth it. But the way I see these categories, I mean, it says communication patterns, but the way I sort of saw it and the way she kind of like introduced it was like, these are stress responses. These 4 things are stress responses in the case where somebody is coming at you with like a complaint or like a feedback that is like difficult to hear. And that these are like the more stress-based types. but that the last one is the only one that's like, you know, different, but then it's kind of speaking to like the rest, the healthier ways of responding when you're not under stress. Trying to simplify that on one slide obviously is a challenge, but
yeah. Yeah, and it is responding to a challenge, somebody coming at you with a challenge. And the first four really are, sometimes we move into those from a reactive place. And the fifth one, the last one, is more we can work on responding. So that's where the reaction versus response comes in. Yes, every situation is different. Every relationship, you determine what you need. Boundaries, so important. Stepping away, saying no, okay, I don't want to talk to this person right now. Helping somebody see more deeply if you're invested in that relationship, right? So there's levels of intimacy. And so it's really, you know, this isn't like one size fits all, of course, as we're hearing from you. So just being aware of what the relationship is for you with this person, what's arising for you, and how you need to navigate it in order to move the relationship forward or get what you need, whatever it is. So some things to think about. Underlying all of this is the practice of mindfulness, is being aware of what's arising. So the reminder of John's definition, the awareness that arises by paying attention on purpose. Okay, I'm going to pay attention like we did with Pop, or you can pay attention when you're talking with somebody in the present moment. Right now, I'm feeling this arise. I'm getting agitated. I'm feeling love. I'm feeling calm without judgment. So it means just letting it be, letting it arise. And then once we're aware of it, we can maybe more skillfully navigate through it. And these pictures are here, you know, mindfulness. It can be the, you know, a formal mindfulness, a group sitting around, awareness of when you're on, you know, a Zoom call like this one. And, you know, that kind of communication, awareness that arises. Somebody doesn't mute their phone and their dog is barking and the toilet's flushing and whatever's happening. You're like, mute your phone, mute your thing. But just awareness of that kind of interaction, communication, and in person, how we're listening, how we're communicating, how we're bringing mindful awareness to an exchange. So we're going to do a little practice with mindful exchange. We're going to do two things. So first is, and we'll do this in partners. So first, listening and thinking about an unpleasant experience. Nothing too traumatic, okay? Just like, traffic or a political discussion or, you know, something, an exchange that you had, communication exchange. And recall that wasn't pleasant, didn't go well, didn't feel good. Who, what, where, when, what happened. And as you're talking about it and as you start thinking about it, recalling, noticing sensations in the body. You know, there might be a tightness, whatever, your feelings, your mood about it, your thoughts about it, and thoughts you told yourself about it. And so we're going to have a partner A and a partner B. We're going to try this out in a breakout. So listen, partner B. So partner A is going to be, you know, talking and describing this experience. Partner B is going to be practicing mindful listening fully with your ears, your eyes, your heart, noticing when your mind wanders, when you're like wanting to fix or wanting to criticize or wanting to say, oh, this happened to me. Just noticing that impulse and holding back a little bit. Notice when you want to interrupt. And then they'll tell their story about 3 minutes. I hope that's enough. I think so. 3 minutes for person A to tell their story. B is listening. And then B can recount the story back or ask questions to clarify, to see that they understood. That'll be a 3-minute exchange. And then that will be the end of that piece. Yeah, so what did you notice as the speaker, as you were telling your story? What was your experience? And you all told your story, so you can all respond. But in that role of speaker.
Rambling.
I learned that 3 minutes is short to hear a Nicole story of any kind.
That's for sure.
I think I told you.
Yeah, we knew that already.
Yeah, spend more time trying to distill it.
So, I think
What else did you notice?
I noticed that the person I would, sorry.
I think Scott was trying to say something.
Go ahead, Jonathan. I'll go after you.
So Sarah and I were partnered, and there isn't, in terms of this group of people, that's a pretty distant life experience space and just, in the office space. And I was a little worried about that. Before we went into the group, I was like, oh, I hope that I'm partnered with, because I don't want to,
So-and-so.
I don't want to, be emotional with, and it was perfect. It was great. Sarah's awesome. It was great.
It's nice to be able to just tell like your story about what's going on, and then having somebody like confirm to you and like, empathize with you. It makes you feel better.
Yeah, I felt freedom to just like take up space and not have to worry about someone else taking up that space from me.
Yeah.
Also, I really like listening. I really enjoyed that part more than talking about my own crud, actually.
Who are you with, Nicole?
Jim and I were together. I mean,
It's a good
nice.
story.
How was it, Jim?
Hey,
She
I was
was a
talking
good
about my mom's
storyteller.
drama. It was all about my mom's drama, not mine. So that was easy. That part was easy.
I was with Catherine.
Well, but wait a minute. It was your mom giving it to you.
True.
I was with Catherine, and my event was not a significant event, but it was nice to talk about it. And she was a really good listener and provided good feedback. I appreciate it.
So interesting too, like how did it feel to be heard? Like someone said spacious, like really nice to have that space.
Well, I don't know when the last time was I had a 3-minute phone conversation that the other person didn't interrupt me.
Right?
And I actually didn't, believe it or not, everybody.
No, you didn't.
Okay, so and how was it to be the listener? To listen with your heart?
It was really nice to have the assignment to listen for 3 minutes. I think knowing that it gave me that time to be quiet for that entire time and wait for Gail to finish. Whereas I think often in, interactions like this, especially with semi-strangers, I would be expected to respond a little bit sooner and say, oh gosh, that's terrible. And or tell me more, I would respond, or react even sooner. So having the 3-minute assignment was really nice. That was a gift to me too, to just sit back and listen fully.
Listening, like actively listening, is an act of kindness.
Yeah.
Yeah, and kind of what Catherine's saying for me, like to not feel social pressure to reassure somebody is a relief, and it feels safer to just kind of sit back and listen. It's I felt a lot safer.
It was almost a permission to be quiet.
I don't think it's familiarity breeds contempt, but talking with friends and stuff, there's always this thing where you have a sense of what's going on and say, oh, did they do that to you again? And it was this. I mean, it isn't being mindful listening. It's listening and reacting all at once.
Interrupting.
And I think it's something I need to be aware of, that maybe just, step back.
You can let the person who's speaking just be able to sit with their emotions without them having to worry about how you're going to react and having to respond to you.
Terry, is that a structure that is, I mean, it dawns on me that I could just say, hey, Kate, let's do this thing where I talk for 3 minutes, you don't say a word, and then you reflect back to me what I said, and I'll do the same thing for you. Is that
Totally.
is like a practice that people do?
Welcome to family therapy.
That's mirroring.
Breakthrough.
Late to the party.
Google mirroring.
Yeah. I mean, really, you can have that agreement because it's not a natural way we communicate, right? Because we're sharing and, oh, that, like, you know, you were saying, Jim, that happened. Oh, that happened to you. But we can have that agreement. Like, give me 5 minutes. I will just listen to you for 5 minutes. What was the best part of your day? What was the worst part of your day? Because if we had time, the next piece was to recount a pleasant experience, a pleasant thing that happened, and share that. But, and then listen fully to that. So, you know, we know it's I can't think of the word I'm trying to say, but we're forcing this right now, right? But we're practicing more, not just because this is how every conversation should be, but how am I being a good listener? Am I watching when my mind is wanting to fix, judging, fixing, interrupting, bored out of my mind? All those are okay. But, you know, and if you are, you know, you might have to decide, like, you know what, I would love to hear more, but I really do have to go. You know, like, every situation is different. It's not saying you have to sit with somebody for 5 minutes, but, you know, knowing what's arising for you is the key for this. Knowing what's arising and how you're choosing to respond to it is really the takeaway.
And Terry, I just want to say, like, from my experience of this stuff, like, as you do this with somebody and you build trust and love, and the attachment goes stronger, like, you don't have to be as rote about, like, oh, 3 minutes. You kind of just become attuned to each other emotionally and know how to respond, like, intuitively. And then it's like, you just feel like you can be more natural and there's more like a flow, you know?
Right. You're definitely building trust. And yeah, so it depends on the relationship and what you want and who it is. Go ahead, Jonathan.
I just, for me, and this is maybe I'm playing an old guy card that I don't actually deserve, but when I listen
You're not that old.
That's my point.
Not that young either.
Yeah, thank you.
Take it easy, John.
I don't feel like anyone's
middle
listening. So when I listen to Paul and Sarah talk, and just Paul, the way you presented that, and Sarah, and that thing we just did, you guys are awesome. You've been raised with something that I've never.
I wasn't raised.
Okay, not raised.
Therapy and self-work. It wasn't.
Yeah, it's a lot of.
There was seed and fertilizer and a lot of water.
Going through a lot of pain and working through it.
It's amazing. You guys are you two are amazing, and I maybe it's just because of the work you've done, but it's. I'm impressed.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Whatever it took to get you here, you got there. So hey.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. It does take work.
So Terry, my wife Terry would say things to me like, I need you to listen, and I don't need you to solve this. I need you to, like, nod at times, don't interrupt me. And she'll, like, coach as to what she's looking for. And that's been useful because I was obviously operating with a different, you know, system before I got that. And then she'll be done and she'll be like, that was good. You nodded when you needed to. You didn't interrupt me. So it's really, you're laughing, but that's how the modules have been working for us.
That's
you know?
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good training. And truly there are gender differences, of course. And I mean,
Absolutely.
I studied gender and communication. It's so fascinating. But what she's teaching you, you know, you're learning together, I guess, more said.
Separate those Kaplans.
Yeah, so I'm curious how it went with you two.
We had a good, it was really good just to give each other the time to actually say what we needed to say and really hear it. You know, we never give each other 3 minutes to go through our day or describe an issue without the other person trying to solve the problem or fix the problem or interject. So everything everyone's been saying has been very, wonderfully clear and correct and appropriate, and we need to internalize all of this. And it's great to be an active listener and that feeling of actually being heard, and have the person look at you and know that what you're saying is relevant and significant. It's a great feeling.
Yeah.
It is a gift. It's a gift of the heart, really.
Yeah. I want to say, like, I felt kind of incomplete just because I thought we were on time, but then for some reason we got cut off at the end. So I just wanted to say to Jim, he did such a good job listening to me. And then I listened too, but I didn't get a chance to to repeat back and let him know that I heard him. And so And of course I wanted to give some advice, like, yeah, really. Not advice, but like acknowledgement. You know, I just wanted to say something to the effect of like, I totally understand that, and I think it's going to work out okay based on what you said. You know, like, so yeah, there is like that ego desire to say something.
Yeah, and
well, good, you got it in.
I always do.
You know, and of
You
course,
went over the limit.
there's many layers to this, and the next thing could be, do you want any feedback on that, or can I? You know, you can ask, and they might say no, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, the inquiry is so important. Well, what can I do to help? Nothing, just listen, thank you.
Yeah.
Or nod your head, pretend you're listening, or whatever, you know, like ask. I hear you, is there anything I can do to help? Or would you be interested in my feedback? You can just ask. So all these layers, this could be many hours workshop. But I want to, we have to close. But I just want to thank you, and I want to point you to, I'm going to share my screen again and just point you to the website, which Sarah has sent to you. Where is it? I had it up here. Darn it. Oh, things get moved around. I need another monitor. That's actually what I need. Oh, it got lost.
So while you're looking for that,
Yeah.
this discussion reminded me of two things. One was, there's a great song by John Prine called Angel from Montgomery.
I know
And
that song.
there's a stanza in there that goes, there's flies in the kitchen, I can hear them buzzing. I ain't done nothing since I woke up today. How the hell can a person go to work in the morning, come home in the evening, and have nothing to say?
Wow.
Great song. Love that song.
And the other one's a poem by Wallace Stevens, which is called The Snowman. That's probably too long for me to read.
We'll Google it.
Well, buzz.
It ends with a stanza that goes, for the listener who listens in the snow and hears nothing that is not there and the nothing that is.
Mm. What's the name of that poem?
It's called The Snowman, and it's by Wallace Stevens.
All right, thank you. Okay, so just a reminder of this page, can you see it? And then these are the different sessions, week 1, week 2, week 3. Week 3, there's some materials if you're interested in reading more. An article, 10 Steps to Effective Listening, using key communication skills to manage stress. And then there's 2 little a guided loving kindness meditation, which I wanted to do tonight, but I clearly wasn't good with time. But you can do that. It's already there, and just to kind of activate the heart a little bit, and then just a breathing practice too. So you have options, lots of options. And that is it. I'm going to stop sharing here and come back to the screen. Are there any questions before we close? Final questions, comments?
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone. Really
We had family therapy, group therapy.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim.
All right, everybody. What a great group. My pleasure, my honor, and I wish you well, safety and health and good communication.
We'll see you guys in a few weeks.
Good weekend.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Have a good weekend,
Yes.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.